Time's up. Admiral.
Here it comes.
Time's up. Admiral.
Here it comes.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry havoc, and let's set the dogs of war.
Chevron 2 encoded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
Val also said you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Now come on, you can, lump boy.
Great Scott.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass!
I thought I'd die fighting side by side with Alpha.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
No, I didn't just like play the intro twice because I'm a retard and I didn't realize what file was which file. That didn't
Of course
just
not.
happen. That didn't
Yeah.
happen at all just now. Hail and howdy, everybody. Welcome to Saturday Night Driving, where we run a well-oiled machine here, and I always know what I'm doing. Oh, I hope everybody's having a good Saturday afternoon. We're early today because today's a special day. Later on, if you stay tuned when we're done here, you will be shifted over to another stream, a special edition of the Daily Dive, where we're gonna watch Dermy basically lose his mind out of fear. Probably piss and shit himself. It'll be funny. Join us for that. It's a good time. Anyway, hell, we got a good one today, don't we, Jed? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. This is a fantastic movie that I absolutely adore. It's one of those films that came out the year I was born. Just feel right. Like, I don't know what it is about movies that come out the year that people are born. I've heard a couple other people talk about it, that it feels like an extension of themselves. And this film definitely goes into that category for me. I don't know if you have any of those. Did they make movies back then when you were born?
Yes. Yes, they made the talkies by then.
They had the talkies. Okay. Did they have color yet? I don't think they had
Yes.
color. Okay.
Yes. The thing called Technicolor. It existed. I hate you.
No, you don't.
You've charted my doom. Is what you've done. I have to hold hands with Dermy 30 minutes. And I've made it worse on myself too. We'll talk. That's another discussion for another time. Anyway, so you're ready for the Matrix. Are you ready for the Matrix?
I'm absolutely ready for the Matrix. I'd much rather talk about that than the sequel to Dot and Bubble that's coming out tonight.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I do have access to it. Yeah, for those who are wondering, where's your Shooty Who review today? Due to the fact that I had to do some real world stuff this morning, and the fact that we are starting early here, and we're gonna torture Dermy, or at least watch him be tortured all night. Shooty Who is gonna have to wait till tomorrow. I'm gonna try and cram it in there tomorrow before.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. Before we get to roundtable, so
You're gonna cram in Shooty?
Cram it in. I was very careful not to use his name in any of that phrase. I'm very careful. But we're going to expect my Shooty Who season 2 review, episode 5 review, some point tomorrow, where he goes to Planet Nigeria. At least that's what I'm calling it until I see any better. Anyway, so yeah, hail howdy the chat. We hope you guys are having a good afternoon. Best way to show that, hit those like buttons. Wherever you are, hit those like buttons. Just chat it up. Have some fun in the chat. And you are not banned. You're chatting right here. You are not banned.
She's banned in my chat, though. There's a reason she's never appeared in my chat.
Well, I mean, probably involves strap-ons and lube, and because that's what she comes bearing when she knocks on your door. You're not banned. Stop these lies and propaganda. Anyway, hope you guys are having a good time. Keep on chatting, talking, and enjoy us as we discuss The Matrix, the only movie in the franchise. Can we agree on that out of the gate?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are little things I like about the second and third film, but not enough to justify their existence. I don't think they're anywhere near Crystal of the Kingdoms. I don't even remember. What is that movie called? Indiana Jones 4, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I didn't see the fifth one. It's nowhere near as bad as that to be divorced from the franchise, but they're just so underwhelming by comparison. They feel like a completely different franchise. This one is a thoughtful and intellectual film, whereas the sequels are like, oh, what if Superman were gay?
This is a good movie made by two men.
Yes,
made by two men. When the opening credits roll and when they end, it's made by the Wachowski brothers.
Oh, yours said that? Mine was edited. They changed the credits on the version I saw.
I have an original copy.
You have an original?
I have a original cut.
But yeah, as soon as those credits started saying Wachowski sisters on the movies that they were making, you could see it quality just a little bit.
And here's the thing, and we're gonna try and this is one of those times where I'm gonna allow us a little bit to slip into the other movies, because we're honestly, unless somebody makes us watch them, we're never gonna review those two. I feel no need to, because it's just gonna be bitching and moaning, except for Monica Bellucci's cleavage, which is outstanding.
The only reason we talk about any of the sequels is if someone on the Daily Dive made you review Matrix Resurrections.
Yes, or because it's that time of you guys have another week, or if you put it on the list for Chat Choice Movie, because it's going, we will get another week of that. So if you go to my community tab and go to that post and leave a comment, say what you want. Yeah, we got like 15 suggestions right now.
Really?
Yeah, we got a bunch.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we're doing
all good ones
ever. Yes. Well, I guess it's your point. I won't say which ones I don't want to watch, because that means
all at least real choices, whether or not you personally like them. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are at least 2 or 3 on there I never want to watch ever, but I won't say what they are, because then it'll happen in some way, shape, or form, and I'd like to protect my own desires for movies. Let's just say there are movies on there that people say, "Oh my God, it's so good," and I go, "I don't want to watch it. I don't care." But that's why I'm not going to say what it is. But so if you go there, go to my community tab. It's up there. Read the rules, post it, and in a week we will hand all those suggestions over to a third party who has not suggested something, because our usual guy has suggested something, so I can't go to him. And that person will choose 4 movies. And then I will put up a poll, and you guys will have a week to vote on it. And then the following week, Jed and I will watch it. We will watch it and hopefully have a good time. We've had good ones every time so far. They've been good discussions.
Yeah, at least we enjoyed the discussions. I think Equilibrium we didn't think was a great movie, but I think we both enjoyed watching it and discussing it.
And while Golden Voyage of Sinbad wasn't a deep movie, we still had a lot. We had a good time talking about what it meant to cinema in general.
Oh, absolutely.
Special effects. And that's why So even though it's a favorite of mine, it's not a particularly deep movie, but we had a good time. And those are there. If you guys haven't seen that, go to the playlist. It's all there. It's all there. You can watch it. It's evergreen material there to just flourish under the sun of YouTube, so you guys can watch it anytime you want. And that's what today's thing. So let's get to today.
Well, before we jump into it, I do need to have a disclaimer. Unfortunately, there is a massive storm raging where I am currently. I don't know if you guys can hear the thunder and the rain and everything like that. But the last time we had a storm this bad, the power did blip. Okay. It never went out entirely, but I might
last week.
Yeah,
kept flipping on me last week. Yeah.
I might disappear for a few minutes, but I don't expect a full outage or a stream stoppage. Just Adam will have to talk on his own, and he's never done that before. So please help him, chat.
It's essentially, it's like, how long will it take for the router to reset? Is what
exactly.
I hate that. That's what I hate the most, because it'll blip and everything's fine, and the computer maybe shut off, but I have to wait like 5 minutes for the router to reset, and I'm standing there waiting for the whatever color light that it is for any of us, waiting for it to go solid and not blink anymore like an idiot. Because I hate that. That's the thing I hate the most. And I might have that problem next week. It's supposed to rain here all week. Probably whatever storm's hitting you is going to roll up the coastline and hit me all next week. All next week it's going to rain. So anyway, with any luck, I won't have to be by myself because I get scared when I'm alone. So let's talk The Matrix, 1999. Jed is born. I'm already ancient. When this came out, before it launched, because I will have to speak on this, nobody had any idea what this was going to be. This is one of those movies, it was like, what is this? What's going to happen? What's going to go on? Then it comes out, and it blows everybody away, because normally, Jed, we can agree, this movie is meta on top of meta, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Normally, a movie like that with so much thick meta in it is not digested well by the public and spat back out and said, no, you tried too hard. It'll find its niche and be happy in its little cult following. But normies are going to go, yeah, too much. This thing, it revolutionized. Look at the zeitgeist repercussions. Red pill, blue pill. We are literally almost 30 years later, and red pill, blue pill is still, now it's taken on a little bit of a different connotation now, thanks to stuff that's gone on since then. But red pill, blue pill are still used in memes. It's still used in exchanges. It is there. It is there. Other things are as well, will come up, but there are a lot of things from this movie that have stayed this time, including Carrie-Anne Moss's ass in those leather pants.
The dress sense, I think, definitely affected a lot of people in a lot of movies for the next few years. The black leather and sunglasses indoors was everywhere. The gun fu,
and the kung fu in general, like, it's stylized kung fu. It's not flashy modern day quick martial arts wham bam. It's like the old school that kind of shit.
It's a little over the top, but it works so well for the film.
Yeah. So it introduced a lot of stuff. And also, here's the thing, too. This, I want to say with a lot of confidence, I feel like this was the beginning of making Keanu Reeves a household staple name in entertainment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he'd done movies before, like Point Break had come out before this. People knew Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, but I would 100%, this is what made him an A-lister.
Yeah.
And do you know who was originally set to star in the leading role?
Will Smith.
He's listed as the biggest career mistake of his life because he went and did what was a Wild Wild West instead.
Which flopped.
It flopped hard. Yeah, I can imagine regretting that. I don't know if Will Smith would have done a better job because Keanu Reeves, I have complicated opinions about Keanu Reeves. I think this movie is a perfect film for him, but I don't necessarily think he has any sort of range or over talent.
If you want to hear me, I spent the whole show on Devil's Channel, Beelzehub. We ranked Keanu Reeves movies about a month or so ago, and we went over all of them. And I pretty much, in a nutshell, said up to a certain point, Keanu was kind of struggling to break out of being a single type of thing. After a certain point, after The Matrix and beyond that, he kind of settled into a certain kind of role and a certain kind of acting where he didn't try to go beyond what he could do, and he found his rhythm. and he became enjoyable, where you didn't feel like was struggling. And at the same time, there also after that became the, I don't want to say myth is the wrong word, but the modern awareness that not only is he not only did he understand the level, he shouldn't exceed his reach. Let's see, Keanu learned after the Matrix not to exceed his reach with his movie roles. But then we learned how much time he put into his movies. And we saw like when he hit John Wick era, where he really just put the work in to do a believable
he's
role.
dedicated, and that's why I think people respect him so much, is he really puts in the work. Like I just think his performance needs some work, his acting range needs work, but he's absolutely deserves all the praise he's gotten, and he's very, very talented. And like they're saying in the chat, Speed. I absolutely love Speed. I think I'm definitely gonna pick it at some point.
I'm not the biggest fan of Speed, and I got a lot of hell on that panel for wanting to put it in C. I think.
Ooh.
I have a lot of issues with that movie. I have a lot of issues.
After The Matrix, I think Speed's the best film of his that I've seen, right there with Point Break. Point Break and Speed I really like.
I watched Point Break a couple weeks, like a month ago, last month when I was sick in the hotel room. So I watched Point Break. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to watch the Keanu movies. So I watched a couple Keanu back. I tried watching The Matrix, but they didn't have it on Tubi. In the place I found it, it literally had a commercial every 5 seconds. So I had to wait till I got home to watch it. But I did a little Keanu-thon. I told you I wanted to do Constantine. Constantine may be a completely butchery of the lore, but I really like that movie. I really enjoy it.
I haven't seen it.
I think you'll like it for the aesthetic, because you don't know anything about the Constantine comic book lore, do you?
Not besides what we saw in the Arrowverse,
which is a little accurate. Because it was that was drawing on the failed NBC show, which was actually pretty lore accurate too.
I really like that casting for Constantine.
Oh, he was
the guy
perfect.
Who played it in the Arrowverse, and he was Edward Kenway in Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Great actor.
He was perfect. He was perfect for it. But Keanu Reeves' Constantine is complete opposite of that, but I still like it. It's one of those movies that I unapologetically like, even though it's terrible. And the final scene is that is the best moment of the whole movie. The climax is the best, but I won't ruin it. When we will do that one. It was going to be out. It was either Matrix or Constantine this week, and I thought after Clueless, you deserved a super discussion of a deep, thoughtful movie like The Matrix instead of Constantine, which is kind of slop. Constantine's kind of slop. It is a little bit, but it's fun slop. But Keanu has become a cultural icon in a way. He survived the sad Keanu meme phase. He survived that, and he went on to he has a solid career. He is actually wanted for action stuff, and at the same time, he also, with plenty of evidence to back it up, is just a regular cool dude. He's a legitimate cool dude, a legitimate normal guy. Doesn't seek anything out, doesn't share his thoughts on anything, and is just there to entertain us. And that's why I appreciate Keanu Reeves. That's why I like it. But let's get into The Matrix now. So, I mean, it's The Matrix. We don't really need to give it an introduction. Everybody knows what it is. The movie begins where you think it's some point in the late 20th century, and the character of Neo is basically being told, don't believe your eyes, don't listen to this or that. And he's tracking Morpheus, this super hacker who partners with another super hacker called Trinity and all this stuff. And they're saying, you're going to want to learn the truth. And eventually we learn the truth that the Matrix is a lie. It's a lie to keep us, the people. We're in the Matrix right now, Jed. We're in the Matrix.
We are in the Matrix.
We're in the Matrix. It's there to keep us pacified in this semi-horrible, middle-of-the-road existence where we can't be too happy and we can't be too sad. It has to be this perfect equilibrium of happiness and misery. Don't you love that about it? It's like we tried it the first couple times in the beginning. When Agent Smith is giving the speech on that, we tried it at first, and we made it a paradise. People just couldn't handle it. You know, actually, right now, I'd love paradise right now. I would.
I do think it makes sense with the human psyche. You feel like something's wrong if everything's perfect. The struggle is very much a central aspect of the human condition. So I liked that they thought through that explanation. Of course, they wanted it to look like modern day to make the connection. Hey, audience members, you're in the Matrix. Of course, I think that was the real motivation behind setting it in 1999. But I like that they went to the work to justify it, and that explanation I feel is sound.
I mean, because it kind of gives you that feeling of why does everything, how come we went through so much technological and social evolution so quickly in the 20th century, and then suddenly in the 80s and 90s, it kind of ground to a halt. And things are taking longer, where cars haven't changed, not really. And nothing has changed. And for them to say that for the Matrix to be locked into a kind of a little thing where it feels like nothing ever changes, it's actually a great concept. And because we can appeal to it, because literally it's been 26 years since this movie. And not a whole lot has changed. I mean, some things have changed. Phones have changed, computers have changed a little bit, but we're not seeing the gigantic.
The day-to-day lifestyle is quite similar.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing about that is later on in the film, the agents say, we picked 1999 because it was the peak of human civilization. And at the time, I'm sure people laughed. Yeah, like DJ Grom's talking about. Even I laughed when I first saw this movie over 10 years ago. Like, they thought the 90s was the peak civilization.
Hey.
These days, I'm like, that sounds great.
Put me on that train and take me back. If I can't go back to the 80s, I'll go to the 90s, because that was a time I understood. That was a time where the word police had failed. I mean, at the beginning of the 90s, the word police, the PC culture, the previous version to woke SJW cancel culture, it had failed. It had been rejected almost immediately as soon as they tried to do it, and the world went on. The problem is they tried again. They tried different ways, and the subterfuge worked. They slipped into between the cracks and everywhere, and they changed cultural rules so that suddenly when they did take over for the past decade, they almost did win with what they wanted to do this time around. Point is, though, the 90s were fun. They were great. It's like the 80s, where 90s are essentially the 80s without big hair and better phones. Is what the 90s was. Without big hair, better phones.
That sounds great.
It was.
And great movies. There were a lot of great 90s movies.
Yeah. I mean, I like the 90s. I grew up in the 90s. I grew up in the 80s and I grew up in the 90s. A lot of fun. A lot of fun was had. We had a lot more freedoms, honestly. So that's why I think when it says this movie says it's in the 90s, it feels relatable, especially those of us who were alive then and watched this movie. It worked. But then you understand this is it's a gilded cage. It's a prison. Everything is fake because we are just energy for machines, for AI, and
which is the worst part of the fucking movie.
Right,
I fucking despise that whole idea of humans being batteries. It grounds a lot of the concept to an absolute halt. A lot of the psychological stuff in this movie is strong. Everything with inside the Matrix, and then what we hear glimpses of human civilization with Zion, all very, very grounded, very well thought out stuff. But the batteries, the amount of energy that it takes to power the Matrix is greater than what the human body could give out, because the human body still needs a lot of that electrical power just to stay alive. And so it would absolutely not be worth it. The original concept of using human brains as external processing units makes way more sense, because the processing capability of the human mind is extraordinary, above what computers can do currently. And it's it's not very well understood even today what the human mind is capable of. Using human minds to make the Matrix, using the subconscious as the vehicle for it, at the same time as using additional processing power for the robots, makes so much more sense from a scientific perspective, and just it feels more accurate because that ties into the psychological elements. You could even talk about, like I said, the Matrix being made from the processing power of these humans. They're creating their own fake reality, and that creates an additional layer to the whole thing. And yeah, I that's going to be the biggest thing that takes points away from this movie, is the fact that we're fucking battered. I know it's the studio's fault. The studio apparently came in and said, no one's going to understand the processing stuff. Make them batteries instead.
And see, I do understand process stuff, because I understand, like, we're as smart as you and I are, and we're brilliant. We're only using like anywhere between 5 and 10% of our brain. We're not even using our full brain potential.
That's actually a misquote of how that whole thing works. We're only using about 5 to 10% consciously. The other stuff is being used, and used well, in subconscious processes. And the original quote is from a neurosurgeon, I believe, from the 70s, who said we only understand what 5 to 10% of the brain is doing.
Okay. All right. So I'm an idiot.
It's very much a pop culture thing, very much a misunderstanding of the science, but it's so much out there in the zeitgeist that most people believe that interpretation.
Essentially,
of
like
research.
the 80 other percent of my brain is just thinking about porn and I don't know it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That explains a lot.
And like Dash is talking about in the comments, it makes way more sense that you'd have control over this reality because your brain is literally creating it along with the machines. It just all flows together. The cohesiveness of the film increases dramatically once you make the humans the processors.
I see. I didn't know that was what they wanted to do, and Warner Brothers said, "No, let's do this." Another brilliant suggestion from Warner Brothers, who has a history of brilliance when it comes to notes and making movie decisions.
Yeah, this movie would jump to well above a 9 if they had kept that concept for me.
But it's still knowing this, my biggest problems with the movie stem from not this movie where it goes. I've always believed when it comes to the Matrix that the story should have always stayed 95% in the Matrix. I do not like it when we go into the real world. I don't like it because.
Are you talking about in the sequels or even in this film?
In this one, it's the appropriate ratio. You know, we're in there to see how they get in and out. It's in when you get into the sequels, it's wow, you've removed all the mystique and meta from it, is the problem. And what I love about this is the fact that Final Form Neo is a god in the Matrix. And I love that idea. And the whole concept of being in the Matrix, fighting in the Matrix, should have where this been. Because let's look at how this movie breaks down. What conflict we have in the movie takes place in the Matrix, where we are allowed to see these superhuman abilities. Because once you are pulled out of it and disconnected, as you said with the brain is not in our process. This is a dream, essentially. It's a fantasy. And I always ask this question. When you're dreaming, once you go lucid dreaming, what is usually one of the first two things you do?
Oh, you try to fly.
Bingo. Exactly. You try
That's
to
always
fly.
how you test it.
Yeah. Yes. And then you go look for boobs. Then I'm flying. Then I'm flying around to apartments, walking apartments like, okay, naked ladies, where are you? Okay, brain working. Yes, that is what happens. You fly, and then you're flying around looking for the boobs.
Your dreams are very different than mine. The boobs come to me. I don't have to go stalk for them.
I have to actually look for them, and I have to fly around and look for the situation.
So you gotta work for it.
Sometimes I don't like what I'm presented with, and I go looking for better options. I'm not lying. Sometimes like, oh wow, you're sort of attractive, but I know this is a dream, so I'm looking for like the ultimate fantasy perfection. So you're a nice lady. I'm moving on.
Wow.
I'm rejecting women in my dreams because I know it's a dream. I know I can do better.
You can do better.
But that's my point.
So the woman in the red dress would have just decimated you, and you would have failed that test hard.
No, I would have gone by the woman in the red dress because that's too.
You could do even better.
I could do better. I could do porn star better. Okay. Point is, once the human mind understands it's a dream and a fantasy, you do outlandish things, which leads us to why this shit is so interesting when they're fighting and doing stuff. The gung fu, the acrobatics, it's looking around and firing shit off, and that's the cool stuff. And even though the kung fu is very stylized, 70s, 80s kung fu, where it's very form based and it's not no head scissor takedowns or anything like that. That leads to the what's the word I want? Campiness. It's campy but good. It's like the good kind of camp where it's like the very boop, boop, with the blocking and shit like that. And it also allows guys like Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, and who plays Mr. Smith? I just forgot his name. Who plays Smith? Agent Smith.
Hugo Weaving.
Yeah. It allows them to do choreography that is within their limit. That's what I think that's one of the reasons I appreciate the choreography and all this stuff is that I'm watching them do their fighting and it's believable. I believe that these dudes right here can accomplish the straight up choreography. I'm not the flips and the jumps. That's fantasy. That we're allowing that for escapism, suspension of belief. But when they're face to face throwing stuff around, I believe it, and that's where my suspension of disbelief is not broken. But I love, and obviously, guys, we're not going to talk about the movie in a linear fashion. We're going to jump around. One of my favorite moments is training day for Neo when he's training with Morpheus. I really enjoy that. One, because it's training, and I love training montages. It's just something about my enjoyment of watching somebody practice and improve in something. And it's campy with the blocks of this, but it works for me. And they sell it to me. And you even get you get the cool moments like the flying crane in the air and they slow it down. I love it all. And it works.
My favorite part of that sequence is when I think it was Mouse who ran into the cafeteria and said, "Neo's fighting Morpheus." And even Trinity like leapt out of her seat, crawling over people to go watch. Like I get everyone else doing it, but she's usually a very restrained person, but she just leapt at it and was going to fight a bitch to get front of the line.
And I love that because now you have to understand this law. You have to understand that knowing where we go with it, that Trinity is operating on her prophecy that she will fall in love with the one. And she's already sort of, I don't know if she's battling or resisting it in this period of time, but I think she's giving into it in a way and watching the fight. They need to see the evidence that he's the one is what's going on here. And everybody's looking for it. And that sequence is amazing in the sense that they're watching saying, oh my God, we've never seen anybody assimilate so much information so quickly. How is he doing this? And he's like a machine. And it's all these little threads at this point and are coming together. Because at this point, that scene is like literally an hour in already. We're like way deep into the movie because
it doesn't feel like it though. I think the pacing is incredible.
Yeah, the pacing really does work. Where you have the buildup, the going down for lack of a better term, the following of the White Rabbit, the following road going down the Ellenbrook Road, all this stuff where they're trying to get to.
I love all the literary metaphors that they use. There's a lot of great ones.
Through the Looking Glass, the White Rabbit, all of it's good. It's so really good. And Sammy Thousan for $2. Is this real? Is this real? Was Sean Connery originally going to play Morpheus? I would need some. I need more confirmation of that because, whoa, that's a little.
That would have been interesting. That would have been interesting. I think Lawrence Fishburne was the right man for the job, but yeah, it would have been better for Sean Connery than Will Smith, I think, to be in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I need some confirmation because if that's true, that blows my mind a little bit. Because Sean Connery is one of my favorite actors of all time. In my house we call him the man because he is the man. And that's incredible. But you're right. Lawrence Fishburne owns the role of Morpheus. I love the way he's just so when he's in Morpheus mode in the Matrix. I love the glasses.
It's a very stark difference. Yeah, the way he acts and behaves, and I think that's a continuation of the. I can't remember the exact term they use. The subconscious self-image or whatever, like when your appearance resets in the Matrix, like Neo's hair was back, he didn't have the residual self-image or something like that. And I like to think that it's an extension of Morpheus. His self-image is grounded in that he's the prophet, the precursor to the one. And so he starts to exhibit that behavior subconsciously as being a more religious figure in the Matrix.
I love the look and the presence. His presence. I mean, Lawrence Fishburne, fantastic actor. Lawrence Fishburne is a great actor, and he just brings when he is in Morpheus mode in the Matrix. There's a level of gravitas to it, and that is what that for a movie like this, we like Keanu Reeves, but Keanu Reeves doesn't bring gravitas.
Oh God,
no, he doesn't do that. Carrie-Anne Moss, she's the cheesecake, and Joe Pagliano, he's the comedy. He's like the sicky comedy, like, oh, you're playing this sleazy guy, but we like you anyway. And of course, Hugo Weaving is the menace. Hugo Weaving can do menace so well. His portrayal of Agent Smith, kind of that halting speech at times, somehow it's impacting. It hits you. But that's still I mean, Hugo Weaving could bring gravitas. I'm not getting it wrong, but he's not meant to. But Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus, when you meet him sitting in the chair, you're basically ready to hold court in that room. It completely anchors the scene, and he's got the look. I mean, I don't know how they did it. Those stemless sunglasses just sitting on the nose. I don't know how they stay on. Mine would fall for me in a second because my big head and my big nose. But but the look, he has the look, the right leather jacket, everything is the present, and the speech. I mean, I used part of it for our intro. This is another thing I wanted to make sure I did with this episode. We're trying to also knock off the intro movies one at a time, make sure we get through them all, or at least some of the franchises. And this is one I wanted to get off the list. The red pill, blue pill speech. All that whole thing. It again has got a place in the zeitgeist. Are you ready to go down the rabbit hole, deeper into the rabbit hole? It's again another Alice in Wonderland. There's so much until they leave the Matrix. This thing, the first act is just slathered with Alice in Wonderland metaphors, and I love it. I love it.
Well, that speech is, I think it's incredibly well written because it gives you so much information without feeling like an exposition dump. Like that speech that Morpheus gives all the way up from meeting Neo to the mirror scene, that's like 10 minutes of just Lawrence Fishburne talking.
Yep.
But it flies right by because I'm leaning forward. I'm with Neo. I want to know the truth at this point, and I think it's partially because of the incredible performance, but the writing is just interwoven in such a way that he, even in the speech, he sets himself up for payoffs later on in the conversation. And literary references are always something that I'm going to enjoy.
Yep.
And I think the Alice in Wonderland metaphor is incredibly strong in this film. It doesn't feel like, oh, we need something that makes us seem pseudo-intellectual. Like, it actually applies. And the Wizard of Oz ones just as much later on. They're all ones that feel apt and appropriate.
And we're at this point, we haven't left the Matrix yet, which is important because we can't do anything super meta with shifting scenery like they're on. So to fight that, I love the cinematography in this scene. This is why one of my favorites of the movie, because the reflections in Morpheus,
the reflection cinematography in the entire film is on point. Like with the sunglasses, the spoons later on, like the reflections are always saying so much,
and it works well, and that's why the Wachowski brothers were excellent at their craft in this. Great, perfectly produced for a shot, and perfectly written and perfectly performed. I don't know you could get any more out of Lawrence Fishburne than you did in that scene. I mean, like you said, you're sucked in, you're leaning, you're listening. Even I've seen this movie many, many times at this point, and I'm still sitting there wrapped with attention, listening to what he's saying because I care. And I'm also pretending that the next two movies don't happen. Working very hard. But then let's jump forward to Training Day. And now we're outside the Matrix where they are able to go into their pseudo Matrix, the training program, the platform. And he's back in Morpheus mode. And they go through the exposition dump of the lore of the world. And despite what your thoughts are on the results of the War Against the Machines, I still love that scene because suddenly now we're using cut technology where zooming in, zooming out, looking at the TV, zooming out.
Oh, the cinematography is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, this is 1999. CGI is still sort of being perfected because you've got both George Lucas and Lucasfilm, Lucas Arts doing this stuff. And ILM, they're also kind of working between video games and movies. They're kind of refining it. But at the same time, the Wachowskis are also taking it to another level as well. And it looks real. The uncanny valley is like this. It doesn't break. And that is something that is lost today. 26 years later, the uncanny valley, I need a glider to get across it. That's how bad it is, and because I can't jump it, I need a good running leap off a motorcycle, and then I need to glide to the other side and hope I make it because it's still pretty wide. But back then, all that stuff, it's seamlessly done. Like when the hunter killers are attacking the ship, I feel the whole thing.
It holds up so well.
Yeah, it still works, and that's why I put this movie in the timeless category. With its production value, its effects, and its story. No matter when you watch this or how you look at it, everything they're trying to tell you about this works. And this is why I hold. I'm going to say this. Do not believe what people say years later that the Wachowskis wrote this story as a tranny allegory. No, they didn't.
No, there's no way.
No, they didn't start doing that shit for another half a decade later is when they started shifting and changing. When they wrote this, they did this with pure creativity and passion. And there are metaphysical allegories in this about religion and God and what you believe in and stuff like that. And what is life? What is intelligence? Do we worry about artificial intelligence? All that's in there.
But and there is commentary on modern society. There's absolutely there, but it's done subtly without demonizing. It's not trying to preach. It's trying to make you ask questions.
Yes. And it does it, like you said, subtly. There's no bludgeoning. There's no beating us with it. And it's done through what I like to call theming. They're not grabbing a current day thing and shoving it down your throat.
Well, if the Wachowskis wrote this movie today or just anyone else today, I imagine Neo at one point would be, this is just like capitalism, and just like say it outright, like, the agents are like the agents of the government trying to keep us in this oppressed system so that we keep obeying our billionaire overlords. Just something just so over the top like that it would be unbearable.
And Agent Smith would have an orange hue to him.
Of course. Of course. The subtlety would have been ripped out of this film.
But it's subtle, and that's why it works. That's why, unlike everything today that the so-called fans out there who actually say everything is art, you have to appreciate this, all this stuff is, all art is political. No, The Matrix is a cinematic piece of art that deserves to be held up as a fantastic science fiction movie that makes you think and doesn't actually give you answers. It leaves it open for you. Unlike everything today, which beats you over the head with their ideological conclusions. And if you don't believe it, then you are evil. But you know what the evil was in this thing? Machine's bad.
Which is bad. Simple and something that most people can get behind.
Yeah, Machine's bad. I mean, I like the role. Nobody remembers who started. I love that line, though. Nobody remembers who started the war, who fired first, which is a fair thing to say. Either side could have done it, but in the end, the machines enslaved humanity. Therefore, Machine's bad. Machines want to wipe out humanity, and it's fine. And I like the original concept of the fact that Zion is the last stronghold of humanity, the only ever stronghold of humanity. The biggest mistake they made is at the end of the second movie where they reveal, oh, this is a loop, and it's happened.
Oh God,
that is one of the worst things they could.
I hate it.
Yeah, that is why I watch this movie and I stop. And I'll talk about my thoughts about how I wish it had gone when we get to our final thoughts here in a bit. But everything else within this, Neo's journey. Let's get out of talk about the act. Oh, you want to say something? Go.
Well, just because it ties into so many things that we just said, I was wondering if we could talk about Cypher really quick.
Go for it. Because we were going to talk characters now anyway, so go for it.
Perfect. So, yeah, the reason I was thinking about it is you talked about that scene where we get the context of the war with Morpheus and Neo in the pseudo-matrix, and we find out the stakes. And I love how it sets it up that maybe reality isn't that good compared to the Matrix. That sometimes a gilded cage can look appealing compared to the real world, and connecting with all of that, the subtlety of the storytelling. I don't know about you, but I understand Cypher. I don't consider him a abject monster. Yes, he murders his friends. He's obviously a villain and everything like that. But I can see why he makes the decisions he does. Because living in that hellscape for 9 years and just eating the shit food, staying confined in that ship most of the time. And Zion, when we see it later, isn't much better than the ship. I'd probably rather stay on the ship than go to sweaty ass rave Zion. Yeah. But then going into the Matrix, being able to feel, touch, eat the steak. The steak is a great metaphor, I think. And it's all set up so well. We even hear like references to Cypher from the agents in the opening scene, like the informant was accurate and shit like that. That I think Cypher's arcs is one of the strongest in the film. I put it up there as being just as good as Neo's, honestly. Not necessarily an arc, but his character work, I think, is absolutely on a similar level where I don't blame him necessarily. I could see many good people choosing the same course of action that Cypher does.
What it is, it's a good breakdown of you've reached your mental limit. And also that he feels like he's been lied to. Here's the thing. Cypher, his final conclusion, everybody's been lying to me my whole life, but at least with the other lie, the steak at least tastes real.
Right.
And I can enjoy myself.
Which makes sense. If you've been told everything you've ever known is a lie, why would you trust anything ever again?
And the thing is, he perceives what Morpheus has done as a lie. When Morpheus is a lie, Morpheus is just a true believer, and he gets a little ahead of himself in selling it. But to I think Arrow said in the chat there, no, Cypher took the red pill of his own volition. He took it. He chose it. He regrets it. He said, I should have taken the blue pill. I should have taken the blue pill. Because that's just a thing. Not everybody is built to fight. Some people are built to go along to get along or to remain ignorant. I mean, there's a reason there's the term ignorance is bliss. There's a reason that term exists. And Cypher was never meant to fight. He would have rather lived in ignorance and been food for the machines. And now, it is a fascinating turn that we can understand, relate to him, but then his choice is to murder and kill. Because watching him pull the plug on everybody, that is frightening. And even though these are basically side characters who are not given a lot to work with, like I don't remember their names. I never remember their names.
They're there to die. That's what their point in the story
They're
is.
red shirts. To use the term correct, they are red shirts. They are meant to die. But even in those final moments, the expressions of no, not like this, and then boom. To know that
performed
you are
really well.
Yeah, it's great, and we feel it, and it's just heart-wrenching. And this is why Joe Pantoliano is fantastic just about everything he does, even though he is a raving lunatic in the real world. Let's not forget that. He's fantastic in his performances. When he is sniffing Trinity, it's like, oh, dude, you're going into skis mode. It's like, I think I was in love with you for a while, but okay, I'm gonna kill you now. It's like, oh, that's cold. That's cold. But then, of course, things happen. He gets saved. You're right. I think your description of Cypher is a fantastic one. I completely agree with you. But he still is a bad guy.
Oh, absolutely.
But
irredeemable.
But here's the thing: bad guys can still be bad guys and irredeemable. But if you are constructing them correctly, we can still understand and relate to their motivations. And they don't have to be wishy-washy motivations. They can be plain old, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. But now I'm really bad and I'm going to murder people. So it was that. But then let's shift to the main character. Let's talk about Neo. I'm going to say this. It takes a while for me to get behind Neo.
I can definitely agree with that.
It takes a while because, and the movie does this on purpose, because you're supposed to, I don't think you're supposed to completely buy into Neo until it's time to rescue Morpheus, honestly. Because up until he goes to see the Oracle, he is still doubting everything. He's even though he's been exposed to what reality is, he's still doubting it. And I love the line. I love when he goes to the Oracle. I love it. You're not him yet. Maybe in another life. And now, when you know what's coming, he's going to die. Neo dies, but then gets another life, and in that next life, he is the one. But up until then, I think it's a great portrayal of a guy who we know he doesn't want to side with the agents and machines, but he hasn't bought into it all yet. Not until Morpheus sacrifices himself for him. That is the turning point of Neo right there. And I love that scene. I got to say, I will say honestly, outside of like a couple of the climactic moments, the best scenes in the movie are all around Morpheus, Lawrence Fishburne, in my opinion. Some of my top 5, top 10 scenes when when Cypher has betrayed them and they can't get out and they're inside the walls of the building and they can hear the agents and the cops on their side. And Morpheus says, "You're going to get Neo." And Neo's trying to tell him, "No, she said I'm not it." He won't listen. But I love it when he just punches through the wall and just goes hog on the agent. And he just tries to fight Agent Smith. And that is just badass. I love badass moments. I just love them. But then for me, peak Morpheus is when they've rescued him. They're in the chopper. They've unloaded the super minigun into the room, and it's remember and Trinity's going, "Come on, do it," and the music plays, dun 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 dun, and you're watching Morpheus just kind of go, "Oh," and he's like hulks out of it, and he's like, "Yes, come on, do it," and he just like flies out of there. It's like I'm like, "Yes!" You're sitting there going, "Yeah, that's fist pumping, yeah, do it, yes," because I love a moment where a hero, not the hero, but a hero is down and they dig deep and they reach in and they say, I'm going to draw on that last little bit of strength I have. And it's great. And Lawrence Fishburne just completely, he just chews the scenery. It's great. I love it. It's so much fun. And I love that moment. Next, those are my favorite Morpheus moments. I just love them. It's like Morpheus being a badass and it's just so good. Back to Neo though. But the whole point of it is that I think I like Morpheus the best. You think?
No, that's completely fair.
I think Morpheus is my favorite character. But Neo doesn't make that turn until Morpheus is captured and he's guilty. It's the guilt that forces him to go, "Okay, I'm going to live up to at least somewhat of what they see in me because Morpheus does not deserve to die for what I still think is a lie about what I am. What he thinks is true." And then Neo mans up. And that's kind of the best thing. A hero is always immediate relatable as soon as they man up. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah. And then we get guns and action and fun. And that third act, one of the most exhilarating, action-packed third acts in science fiction, I think.
It's nonstop.
Yeah. It's just boom, boom, boom. And you get everything. You get choppers with guns, you get jumping around, shooting everything, and
all the scenes are integrated well together. Like it's not like a Fast and Furious movie where they're like, "All right, we have a list. We have to go to all these cities. We have to blow up these buildings," and they just kind of make it happen, and the logistics of it don't matter. No, every single one it makes sense why they're there, what they're doing, why they leave, what happens in between. Like the city feels real. I don't get lost in where anything is or why anything's happening.
And is it New York? It's New York, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, because they don't say New York, but it's supposed to be New York.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the thing. That's one of the things that works in this movie. It could be anywhere. And it's just big city world. Because it's just supposed to be a fantasy, a simulation, all that stuff. And yes, Ariel, I see what you're saying. You know how this works. We're talking about the show. All right? We're talking about the movie. I'm not gonna bend the knee because you're sniffing at me. You're crying. All right? You haven't earned that. Okay? Listen, I have to treat Ariel with discipline here. Otherwise, she will abuse her rights as a member of the chat. All right, I have to be. I can't let her.
Is it bad that I thought you were going to say woman?
And now I think the problem is now she's roped poor Dom into this. She's roped poor Dom into this, who goes along with her shenanigans, and he's happy to do it and try and derail. Look, they've derailed. Are you happy? You've both derailed the show now. Okay, all right, you've derailed the show. Anyway, so Neo, I think, has a fascinating storyline of not believing because he rejects it in the beginning. Then they save him a second time. But then even when he's saved, he still doesn't believe. He's told he's this all-powerful being, but then learns he's not yet. Maybe not will be in another life. And then when push comes to shove, he mans up, does the hero thing, and goes and saves Morpheus. But then I love that line. He's starting to believe. He starts like, don't you run from an agent? No, fine. But then, of course, he barely survived. He when he as regular Neo, he of course doesn't quite match up to Agent Smith, who is still at that point, in that moment, light years ahead of him, and he only gets away through a little bit of luck. And then what I love about this, it's a hectic run there at the end, where he's running through the buildings, dodging around, this and that. And then he thinks he gets away and he opens the door and there's Smith. Boom, boom, boom. And it's like, whoa. Did our guy just die? I mean, where does it go here? And then here comes Trinity, the whisper of sweet nothings in his ear. You guys know I'm a hopeless romantic. I love good romance, but her whispering in his ear, the Oracle told me I would fall in love with the one, and I didn't want to believe it, but I do believe now. I love you, Neo. So that means you have to be the one. So you need to get up. Now, Jed, we've talked about romance in movies before and other stuff right now, and sometimes I'm able to give into movie romance where it's quick and easy, and this movie at least has it going for it. Considering we can see X amount of time has passed, depending on how Neo looks in the real world. So it's not just been a few days. It's at least been a week, maybe 2. But while I don't have a problem with Neo and Trinity in general, I think the movie does drop the ball on giving a good foundation to their relationship.
Oh, 100%. It's one of the weakest aspects of the film because I don't think they spend enough time together. We don't really get a sense of chemistry with them outside of the fight sequences.
Yeah.
And like we don't really get a scene of just them sitting down and talking for an extended period of time. We don't know what she likes about him. We obviously know he thinks she's hot, but that seems to be the extent of it. Like I could call this a crush at best. And it just really needed one scene, I think. One good scene in the second act to have them sit down, have a little bit of discussion, maybe hint at her prophecy from the Oracle saying, fall in love with one. I agree, we shouldn't have it fully revealed, but something like you see that she's resisting, but can't really get herself to fully resist. There's that struggle of attraction between them, and we don't get any of that. She doesn't really do anything besides look at the monitors and go "Ooh" occasionally, and that's not enough.
Exactly. I mean, the extent of her showing she's into him is facial expressions or glances at him or looking intently. I mean, they did not do enough. And then in the subsequent movies, it's shit. Their romance is shit in the next 2 movies. There is literally no real groundwork for why he loves her so much and why she loves him so much.
Which is kind of important for the end of what is that, the second movie?
Yeah, and we're him breaking so the whole thing, even though I don't mind it, it's just there's not enough for it, especially for that moment. I love you. Get up. You have to be the one. So get up. It's all done so that she could tell him he's the one, and then he can do it for her, which is fine. There's no problem doing it for your lady love of fighting the battle. That's classic mythology right there. Hero fighting for the girl. That's fine. It's just poor buildup and I don't want to say sloppy execution, but weak execution at the end. Weak execution. That's one of my points that it's going to lose because they didn't do that enough compared to other movies, especially science fiction, where the romance has a good ground foundation and they build it in a good way. But
the movie I just watched in that vein was Empire Strikes Back. I watched that a few days ago. The Han versus Leia romance in that film is so well done because you actually get the scenes of them on their own, several throughout the film, and you can see Leia struggling with her attraction. It's exactly the type of relationship they kind of should have emulated. Han obviously doesn't have the same character as Neo, but the dynamic between them, I think, should have very much been reminiscent of Empire Strikes Back.
Yep. And just as a little aside note, little tangent, there is a small comic that was released. I don't remember when it was released. I read it in a trade paperback that to Han and Leia's romance, when they first arrived on Hoth, they both crashed in a shuttle and were trapped for a while, and they nearly gave into their passions in that shuttle. So, putting that into part of the lore, there's so much in there with the buildup, nearly giving in, and then having somebody it arriving just in time. So it is that, and I can't believe I was exactly. I didn't want to bring up Star Wars. I didn't want to do it. So I was like, you know what?
I did it for you.
You did it for me. You went there. You knew that I was thinking about it. So, but yeah, Han and Leia is the perfect example of a well-crafted relationship. Starting in the first movie, hey, you think a girl like that could go for a guy like me? Starting with that, that's where it starts. And I that's okay. But yeah, so trio, Neo and Trinity, weak. And remains
Trio?
weak.
Is that their shipping name?
I don't know. I can't speak. I'm a retard. But their entire relationship is one of the weakest things of the whole franchise. And it's supposed to be the cornerstone of the franchise, which is why it's bad. But then, of course, when Neo's the one, it's just, I also love overpoweredness. I love it when he just destroys everything. And before we talk about that, let's then also talk about Agent Smith, because before we talk about his demise, Agent Smith, Hugo Weaving, this was his time for iconic characters. This several year period from the late 90s, early 2000s, where he put his stamp on science fiction and fantasy as, yep, I'm going to live on in the zeitgeist forever. I'm Elrond and I'm Agent Smith. Live with it.
And V.
And V. Yep, and V. So, Agent Smith, I think, is a great villain in the first movie. In fact,
100%.
He's a perfect villain because he's not the big bad. He's an agent of the big bad, but he's a disgruntled. He hates his life. His motivations are not to just stop the rebellion. He wants to essentially die. He wants to be removed from the Matrix and plugged back into somewhere else in the machine empire on Earth. I love that.
I think it complicates the stakes of the film a lot too, makes it a lot more fascinating, because without Agent Smith and his, dalliances with sentience, because you have to be alive to have those feelings that he has. I believe Agent Smith is sentient. I believe he's 100% alive.
When he takes the earbud out and he's like manhandling Lawrence Fishburne's face, which is, it's disgust. That scene disgusts me with the sweat and the rubbing and the sniffing. I hate it. It grosses me out. Nasty.
But if that's just a small cog in the overall machine of the machines, that means that a lot of the other machines are probably alive too. So that suggests it was a war between sentient species. It wasn't just, machines decided to take over because some logical fallacy or humans were unproductive or anything like that. This isn't some cold-hearted monolith opponent that has no feelings, that is has no depth to it. It is just evil generic. It's complicated. Like, I imagine that there were people during the initial war between the humans and the machines who were like, they're alive. They deserve their rights to be respected. Whether or not that is legitimately something they should have done, but it adds a degree of humanity to the villains. They're not. I find it makes them way more complex, and I don't know. Without that, this film, I think, would have felt very generic.
It works because you're dealing with an entity in Smith who is disgusted by all sides in this. He hates humans. He hates the Matrix. He hates his own kind for forcing him to live among these things. Like, I can smell you, and I hate it. It's stuck in my nose. It's visceral. And that's why Hugo Weaving's performance is great, because in that moment, up until then, he's been pretty Mr. Anderson. He's been that, and he's been cool, collect. But in that moment, the mask comes off, and I'm gonna use the word again. Hugo Weaving's performance is visceral. You feel it. You feel it. It's in your face, and he is just the disgust comes across so well, and he sells it perfectly. How he hates everything, and he doesn't want to tear it all down. He just doesn't want to be there anymore. His sole reason for existence at the moment is to kill everything so he can find release and get away. That's it. And if he gets Neo and he gets Morpheus, he thinks that might be his ticket out. At least it doesn't come right out and say it, but it's understood that if he can get Morpheus and find Zion, it can be over. And that's why I think at this point, the Wachowskis, they hadn't decided to make it a loop yet. Because if it was a loop and Agent Smith as a program had been around for thousands of years doing this shit, he wouldn't give a shit if it was just a loop.
I think they do imply that they reset the programs too when they reset the Matrix. But I agree, it doesn't work. The loop
but we don't know how long this version of the Matrix has been going. It could have been going for hundreds of thousands of years. Because it's just this never-ending late 20th century slop. But he's been there for a long time, and he just wants out. So I don't think they don't reset the Matrix every time a loop happens, because the Matrix still keeps going. It's just if we go to the lore they create in the second movie, they just choose the previous one will choose several people to start a new Zion, and then they start the whole thing over again. And I don't think the Matrix resets. So I don't think they had decided to make it a loop yet. And that is what made it compelling. This guy, I'm stuck here. He says that I'm stuck here with you and I hate it. So just give me what I want so I can get out of here. And then, of course, we see the other agents come in. The other agents are probably somewhat sentient as well, but they're plugged in. Because like the line, why is your earpiece out? Why aren't you plugged in? Now, again, let's evolve it to what they go in the next movies. Smith does hate the machines because he thinks he could do a better job by making everything uniform. Him, which I hated. Now, let's go back to where I peeled off from this. The final confrontation between Neo and Smith, where Neo is now the one. That's very cool and all that shit. Stopping the bullets, doing the one-handed blocking where he's super fast. And then when he takes over the body that Smith was inhabiting and then annihilates Smith, that should have been the end of Agent Smith. And this is the problem of that era. Everybody thought Hugo Weaving was so great they had to bring him back. No. Should have been another villain. If we were going to get 2 more movies, should have changed villains, not have Smith be something more now, be Mr. Multiplicity, where he's going to take everything over. It diminished. Everything after a great ending like that diminishes, because then before I go to the very end, I want to comment in. You have anything else you want to jump in here on? No. I haven't skipped over anything you want to talk about.
Just nitpicks. I'll get my final thoughts.
Okay. So the final moment after they win and get out of there, they stop. I don't care about any of the other characters outside Morpheus, Neo, Trinity, and Smith. I don't care about anybody else. They're all. I don't really want to talk about the dude Tank, because that guy. There's a reason he wasn't in the following movies, because he did some sketchy shit with women.
Really?
He was accused of things.
I love his character, though.
His character's great. And
his brother.
Yeah, well, his brother got aced. But his character is great. But yeah, there's a reason he wasn't there in the following movies, because he was accused of things and he was fired. And then you got the guy who played the poet in the prison show on HBO. So yeah, which was a downgrade, honestly, because that character was terrible. But yeah, so we're not going to talk about any of those guys, because you know what? They're all boring. I don't care about them. I don't care. But that final moment where they've survived, they stop the hunter-killer, all this kind of stuff, and you just see the city. And then you hear the phone ringing, and then it's Neo talking to the machines. Just we'll just say the overmind consciousness of the machines. I know you're listening. I know you're out there. we're going to reject this. We're going to fight you. And I know you're afraid because I'm here. And we're going to show them the truth you've been hiding. And eventually everybody's going to wake up and get pushed. And now that's a metaphor for so many things. So many things. Reading into it what you want. That's why it works. You can read into it what you want. But as far as the movie goes, because that's where I want to. I don't talk about what it means. We'll talk about in the movie. In that moment, of course, then it dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, hangs up the phone. He's looking around. I'm Neo, and then it pulls back. You hear the sonic boom, and then he flies. That's cool. But then, when you finish this movie back then, my thoughts were this: because we knew there were going to be more movies. We were all. It's like they're gonna make more movies. They have to. This thing's a massive hit. I thought we were going to get a war in the Matrix. A war in the Matrix, where Neo is the key to victory, because he could alter the Matrix and probably do something against the machines and reverse it on them. I thought that's what we were going to get. No. We got Zion, like you said, Zion and its rave and all its sweaty sex and its orgies with the plugs and the showing. Oh, God.
It's terrible. I love ambiguous endings when they're done very well. I always point to Inception, but this film is another example of it. I don't actually want to know what happens next. I mean, what you're suggesting sounds cool, a war in the machine or in the Matrix, but I still feel like that would be unfulfilling. It'd go from the super thoughtful to a super action-packed, which is kind of what the sequel did anyway. I don't think there should have been a Matrix 2. Like, if I made the Matrix 1, I would say, nope, I own the rights to this. I made this movie. I don't care what the studio wants. I know this was a massive hit. I will not allow there to be a sequel of any kind. Like, it works so well with the mythology of the film as well, is what the one represents. And when applying it to the real world stuff, waking up from whatever hell that you're living in to see the truth, you never know what's going to happen. You never know the consequences of rejecting a lie. And so not knowing the consequences of Neo doing that, finally at the end of the film, just fully embracing his new life and his new persona.
Yeah,
I don't want to know the consequences of that, because it feels way more personal to be left hanging.
Real quick, on the Stream Element side, The Atom, I guess it's the one. Yes, I am the biggest Disney Star Wars fan ever. Just deal with Ariel and Dom. You guys mean nothing to me now. I will continue to look down on you guys from my tower. Ha. The Atom. Okay. I am the Atom. Ha. Ha. Ha.
I have become Adam, destroyer of worlds.
I am the Atom. So I guess now I live in a tower, and I look down at everybody. Man, my lore is changing rapidly these days. I don't know if I can keep up. We need someone to chronicle my lore. Adam EXE is broken. I'm an Apple user. I don't have EXE. Anyway, so I can see what you're saying. I can see what you're saying, and I can buy into that in hindsight. Just stop right here. Let us with our imagination. But at the time, we knew there were going to be more movies. So
of course,
I'm thinking, okay, we're this next step, let's have it. But even if it hadn't been a war, it didn't need to be a war. The movie needed to stay 95% in the Matrix. And then the choices they made narratively were all wrong. Because, and I'm saying this as someone who, the word didn't exist yet, but I was taking heavy copium for the second two movies. I defended them so hard because I couldn't accept they were that bad. I couldn't accept it I wasn't a diehard Super Matrix fan. I just really enjoyed it and I had a good time and I wanted these movies to keep going. But I coped so hard defending them. And then it was a while before I said, yeah, fine, I give up. These movies are shit. Because I rewatched it all the number of times. And every time I watched it, a little piece of me died a little more. And eventually was like, yeah, I can't defend these. He's been crucified as he's going up there. He's fighting Smith. This is so dumb. This is so dumb. Oh, now they're going to live in peace. He's gone. oh, bittersweet ain't no fuck all of this. Fuck it. There's only one Matrix movie, and I'm happy with an ambiguous ending. That would have been fine. Would have been fine. Would have been fine. All right, you got anything else you want to say, or we're gonna go into scores for the?
Just one nitpick I want to talk about real quick, and this is such a nitpick that it shouldn't really be that big of a deal, but it did ruin my immersion, so I do want to briefly talk about it. So after Neo's been implanted with the bug early on in the film and then re-released into his home, he wakes up and then he's recontacted by Morpheus and Trinity. I have a problem with Morpheus's phone call to Neo when he's like, hey, this line is tapped, but they let you go. If they knew how super duper important you were, they would never have let you go. Haha, they're so stupid. Why don't you meet me at this very specific location? You just said it was bugged, and then you say, haha, you're more important than they think you are. Here, come right here where they can say exactly where you're going. At least try to talk in code and then say you're important later. That phone call just ripped me out of the movie. It's such a small thing, though, that it's not that big of a deal.
Followed by an epic scene.
Followed by a great scene. Yeah, absolutely. I do want to ask this question, though, real quick. When it comes to Trinity, because we didn't talk about her, because there's no real
There's nothing to talk about.
The one thing that I find interesting that I want to see your thoughts on is her first scene with Neo in the sex club when he recognizes her and he's like, "Hey, you're the guy. You're the hacker who went into the military compound or whatever it was." Do you think that piece of her backstory was something that she did with Morpheus, or was that who she was prior to being woken up? Was she?
I'm gonna say prior, because considering that this is all happening in real time, she isn't any older than Neo out there. It's not like you stop aging when you're plugged into the Matrix. You're still going to age. My guess is that was the thing that probably attracted Morpheus to her, and because you would think that people who the movie kind of tells you that people who the rebels, hackers or rebels, are natural rebels. So if they're fighting against the machine and they're trying to rebel in their way and hurt the system, that they're likely to take the red pill and want to be a part of the fight. So I'm going to say she was that happened before, because clearly she isn't any older than Neo is. So she had to have been taken out in the past few years, which means it probably happened in there. Because remember, people still know each other in the Matrix. They're still there if they're in the same area. So she probably went under the hacker named Trinity while she was there and was pulled out. So I'm going to go with it was before. It's part of her lore.
I just really like that little tease of her backstory. I would have liked to know more about her, because that, I think, would have helped the romance arc. But that little tease I do find fascinating. But those were the last things.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that movie just turned Carrie-Anne Moss into a sex symbol for a decade. Okay? It did. Rightly so. Listen, Carrie-Anne Moss does other good work. I mean, she does voice work in Mass Effect. She's done a lot of good stuff, but that is what she's known for.
She did Disney Star Wars for like 2 scenes.
For two scenes, and she mailed it. She got her money, mailed it in. And you know why I know it was mailed in? Because when asked about it, she said, "Yeah, it was a job. I showed up and did it." She didn't go. She wasn't sitting in the chairs talking about Anakin blowing up the Death Star with those idiots. In a quick interview, she says, "Yep, I did it for money. I showed up and did my job. I don't care about this." And that's why I give her a little bit of respect, because she actually has backed off from a lot of acting to be a mom, which is also respect.
Yeah.
But because of the Matrix, she was a sex symbol for a decade in that leather outfit, tits and ass, man, and I was there for it lots of times. Anyway, okay, so my week, so I scored first. As I said, this movie kind of redefined science fiction at the end of the century. I said it earlier, it's meta without meta making it boring. It's interesting. You can watch this over and over again, and you're always interested in it. And the performances, I think, are excellent. The casting turns out to be top-notch. Everybody actually fits the roles perfectly. The special effects, the choreography, the production value, the cinematography, the music, it all fits into this crazy-ass sci-fi movie. and I love it. That's why I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. The original movie never disappoints me. I'm always a good time. All right, Jed time.
All right. Well, surprisingly, our scores are actually quite similar because I think this movie is very deep, very intellectual, asks a lot of great questions, and makes you ask a lot of great questions. And the subtlety of its commentary is done in such a way that I don't consider it propaganda in any way, shape, or form. I think it asks some really fascinating questions. As long as you don't believe the Wachowskis' whole "it's a trans allegory." And I do need to briefly say I saw someone on Twitter recently say that this is just gay retarded ripoff of Dark City. And now that I've seen both films, I want to punch a bitch.
They're
But
completely separate. They're completely separate. Yeah.
but overall, this film, it's absolutely a great film. Great action, great immersive film. If you just want to turn your brain off, action fun, you're going to get that here. If you want a deep intellectual, thought-provoking film, you're going to get that. There's so many great perspectives to watch this movie from and still get everything you want out of it. You don't have to be a watcher like me or like Adam. There's so many ways to enjoy this film. The only drawbacks for me are the battery thing. I think that's actually a problem that breaks my immersion on a very strong level, and the romance. Those are the only two things that I think have significant impact in the quality of the story, all the production design, all the acting. I can't take anything away from those. So it's just those two parts of the writing. I have to give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be. I knew it. I could sense that was a go. All right. And real quick, I did see Ariel ask a particular question right here. In that vein of that discussion of Trinity, I think Morpheus is not an ancient. He got pulled out first, probably one of the first to be pulled out when they started another loop.
Well, he does say that they don't pull out people once they've hit a certain age, that they try to go younger. Like Mouse might be the norm. So he could have been out of the Matrix for 30, 40 years easily.
Yeah. So Morpheus was out for a while, but everybody else within their time, like Morphin, I mean, the Cypher said 9 years. So Morpheus was probably out for a good, I would say 20 years is my bet. Maybe something like that. That's my guess. And with that, we are done. Scores are locked in. Jed, do you have a movie for next weekend?
I do. Well, it's connected to some real world stuff. The release of a new film that's coming out later this month. I'm going to be picking the 1996 spy classic. I have controversial takes on it that will bother the hell out of Adam because I love this movie so very much. It is the first Mission Impossible movie starring Tom Cruise.
Dun 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 dun. All right, yeah. I haven't seen the first one in forever. It's been a long time. It's the best
one. I love all of them, even the shitty second and third one. But
I've honestly never seen the third one. I watched the first one, second one.
It's so boring. It's J.J. Abrams, and Ethan is just like, yeah,
it's Jar Jar, which is why I skipped it.
My wife's been kidnapped.
It's why I skipped it. And then I came back for the other ones, and by then it evolved into high octane spy thriller, not espionage spy thriller, which is what the first one is. But we'll talk more about that next week, I'm sure. So, all right, thank you everybody for joining us today. We hope you had a good time. We appreciate all your support, and if you're going to stick around and be shuffled, shoved, pushed, whatever. Shuttled. I can say that any way you want. Over to a special edition of the Daily Dive, where, as I said earlier, Dermy's playing a game called Outlast, I believe it's called. It's a horror game, and Dermy hates horror games. He's going to cry tonight, possibly piss himself, and we're going to be there to watch it for at least a while. If we get bored, we might switch to playing video games, but for now, we're going to sit back, relax, and watch it. In about 36 minutes, we will go live and chill out till Dermy starts. Either way, though, thank you guys for helping out, having a good time with us today. We appreciate you. Hit those like buttons, subscribe to the channels, and we'll see you guys next time. Until then, take it easy, everybody.